Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Both Mom and I are happy that you could join us for another week. And we're super excited today. We have Jenny C. Bell on with us. She is the author of Spirit Crystals, Discover Your Crystal Guide for Healing and Empowerment, Divergent Witchcraft, an Inclusive Approach to Making Magic, and the Cosmic Creator Oracle deck. She's the founder of our Coven online community, host of the Cozy Coven Chats podcast, and a practicing witch. For 3 decades, Jenny has practiced yoga, meditation, read tarot cards, and worked with the healing powers of crystals. A Reiki master, meditation teacher, and budding herbalist, Jenny uses her years of wisdom to champion others on their witchy journey. So, welcome, Jenny. We're super excited to have you on the podcast with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I love that you're a mother-daughter duo. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and my dream, because she's like a visual artist, is to one day do like a tarot deck with her. And so I love
Nice.
seeing you two work together. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So, you have a new book coming out here right away, Divergent Witchcraft. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and what inspired you to write it?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for asking. And it's the inspiration behind it is I actually have a background as a school teacher. So I was an English teacher, taught middle and high school for 13 years. As part of that, I worked with English language learners. I worked with gifted and talented, and I worked with special education. And fast forward to having my own child enter school and having struggles, and we just thought it was because he was in kindergarten during COVID. And so we're like, is this a learning disability? Is this neurodivergence? Or is this COVID? And so eventually, he got diagnosed with ADHD. And of course, I think like so many moms, modern moms become like experts in whatever is wrong with their child. You know what I mean? Like if your child's sick, if your child has like a neurodivergence, if your child has an injury, you just like deep dive on it because you can, like the internet allows us to. So I started researching neurodivergence, ADHD, got like all these parenting books, and I'm reading about how it's genetic. He starts seeing a ADHD specialist, and she's like, "Yeah, it's genetic. Like chances are it's you or your husband." And then it's me. Like he is like my mini me in looks, in personality, in everything. And so it was a lot of, I've talked to people, and some people, when they get these later diagnosis or later realizations, you don't even have to have a diagnosis, but you just start to realize, like, I'm neurodivergent, I'm a little different. It is so freeing for us because it's like, oh, like my whole life, I thought I was just kind of weird, and I am. But I thought something was like inherently broken, or I always felt kind of alien. My first blog was called Broken Better because I thought like I was broken and I needed to get better. And it's because I didn't know how to like adults. I didn't know how to organize, like things like that come maybe normal or natural to other people did not come to me. And so I really felt like a relief in knowing that I'm neurodivergent. It was like, oh, I just am wired differently. And there was like a freedom in that. And it was like, we started like talking about superpowers, for my son. Like, what's an ADHD superpower? Started doing all this research. Meanwhile, I'm writing a beginner's book on witchcraft. So, like, these two things are happening at the same time. And I finished the book. It was really big. It was like so most books are coming on the market are about 50,000 words. It was 100,000 words. And everyone was like, "Hey, that's really long. Can you change some things?" And I really started editing. It went through a ton of drafts, and then at some point, I was talking with my agent, and she's like, "Well, what if you really like lean into the neurodivergence? Like, what if you really lean in and you really like make this book not necessarily for just them or for people identify that, but people that maybe could use a little more inclusivity, people that could use a little more accommodations. Because the truth is, like, you can't really write a book for all people with neurodivergence because they're all different. Like, for a book to be truly for someone with dyslexia, it has to actually be printed a certain way. There is a neurodivergence where people can't really read off of a white piece of paper. Like the light reflecting on white paper makes it really hard for them to read. And in fact, as a teacher, I had these special kind of rulers with like a yellow film so that the yellow could be moved across the words and then the kids could read it better. Because
Wow.
it wasn't that glare of that white, stark white. So there's like a lot that needs to go into it. So this book isn't like the recipe for all neurodivergent people, but it's a start. I feel like there isn't anything else like it yet, and it's going to open the conversation, it's going to open the doors, and hopefully we start seeing more and more books for specific neurodivergence and because I've just learned that so many people who are neurodivergent are interested in witchcraft. Like they just seem to kind of like converge very easily.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing. And I think that it gives them that opportunity then to read a book that can teach them. I'm assuming that it's kind of the basics of witchcraft. So, right? So it can teach them those things that they're interested in, and then they can move further down. And hopefully people also see as authors, oh, this is a need that we have out there in the world. And so, like a pioneer of this.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. I hope we see more. That's my goal. I recently went to Spirit Northwest and met a lot of authors, and several authors told me they were neurodivergent. Oh, I just got diagnosed with ADHD, or I just got diagnosed with autism, or I was dyslexic my whole life, and it was like, oh, how interesting, right? So it's like here's a lot of people who are authors who are experts in whatever aspect of witchcraft they're experts in, and they are also feeling this, and so I feel like. I don't know, it's like a movement. Like so many people are realizing with either later diagnosis, and sometimes people can't get a diagnosis. And I just want to say that like it's a long path for an adult. It's expensive here in the United States with our health system, which enough said on that. It's really hard for a lot of people to get the health care and the mental health care they want. And so you don't have to have an official diagnosis. You just feel like you are, and that's enough, I think.
Yeah, I would
True.
agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so how does your book lay out then so someone that has a neurodivergency can use this book to start teaching themselves?
Yeah, so I really leaned into something called it's like universal language guidelines for actual educators, like teachers in the classroom. And I kept going back to those guidelines to make sure that I was writing this book in a way that would be able to reach as many people as possible. And so the book is chunked. So there's never like a chapter with no subheadings, right? Because that's not really helpful and in fact, for most people now, because we read online, like nobody wants to
right.
read that. They need things chunked. There's a lot of activities. There's a lot of pause and journal. It's like very interactive and it's very like paced out in a way that I would have done things in like my actual classroom. And so I really kind of used that like teacher background. And then it starts off with this idea of like, let's just lay a foundation. So we start off with meditation and journaling and really like learning about ourselves, like connecting with just like ourselves in general and kind of building that foundation before we even move into like the elements or the moon, because I wanted people to like feel like confident. That's the thing is it's hard to feel confident. Witchcraft is huge. It's a huge, varied thing. You meet someone who's I'm pagan and I do this, and then someone will say, "Well, I only work with this deity," and someone else will say, "I'm a high magician and we do ceremonial magic." And I mean, it's like endless. And so I wanted the book to be like, okay, here's a foundation of like anything you really need to know. And once you read the book, you'll feel confident to be like, okay, this is the next path I want to go on, or I want to learn more about the moon, or I want to learn more about astrology. But you'll feel like you can have a conversation, that you can read another book. One of the things I noticed in beginner books or books in general is that nobody teaches how to actually create a spell.
I did notice that, yep.
Yeah, they'll give you spells, but they don't tell you how to make one yourself. And so then I work with a lot of new witches in my community in our coven, and they just don't feel confident to like create one because if no one's telling you you can or how to do it, and you're just seeing lists, you assume that you're not qualified. And
True.
it, right? And it feels kind of like gatekeepy, almost like here's a list of spells that I created. Don't do it yourself.
And you're more about embracing the I want to teach people this, and so they can lean into finding which path that they want to go down, because I do think there is a separate path for all of us and what we believe, especially when it comes to witchcraft. And I think that's amazing that you start with the very basics of really kind of figuring out who are you, what works for you, right? And because I find like I just in conversations with people, even meditation, I asked a girl just recently, I'm like, well, do you meditate? And she's like, no. I'm like, she goes, I don't, I can't slow my brain down enough to meditate. And I'm like, do you do the dishes? She's like, yeah. I said, good. When you do the dishes, concentrate on the dish that you're washing, look at the soap, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm like, yeah, it will shut down your mind for just a minute. That's meditation. She's like, oh, I can do that. Yeah, but people don't
Yeah,
say that.
it's about becoming present,
Yeah.
right? And that's exactly what you taught her. It's just about I become present. I've taught meditation in person. I'm on Insight Timer and I teach meditation. And here's, yeah, I'm someone who runs pretty hyper and pretty anxious, and yet I can do it. So I feel like anybody can do it. But yeah, it's exactly that. It's like I liken it in the book to meditation's about listening. So as witches, when we like do ritual and we do spell, we're saying what we want, we're doing what we want, but we need to also listen to what's coming in. And if you're not meditating or giving any space for that, then how do you know what's coming through? You can't.
Mhm. That is very true. I think so
Mhm.
often we ask these questions, out to the universe, however you want to put it. And then you're right, we don't pay attention to the science, or we see it and then we're like, oh, that was just a whatever, right? And we just bypass it as that was actually the answer to what our question was.
Yeah, 100%.
And so with your community, you kind of alluded to this. So I know I saw online that you have like a coven community. What does that embrace and how does that is that kind of, will that help people that read this book as well, that they can join this community and start to become part of a community, I guess?
Yeah, well, they helped me write the book in a lot of ways because I think it's about going to be no, it's going to be 4 years old soon. So
Wow.
I put the cart before the horse. I was like, I'm going to start a community with like 10 followers because I wanted community. So my whole like witchy life, I've had at least one friend to go through it with. Like in high school, I had a friend, and then I moved, I found another friend. In college, I had a friend. I currently have a friend who we went through Kyle Gray's Angel Team together. And I've always been lucky to have some community. And then I moved and I didn't have community and I wanted that. And so I created the Our Coven community, which is private. It's on a Mighty network. They're our host and it's completely private, meaning so like we don't get the trolls and the people coming in and being like, I have a message from your ancestors, beloved, or trying to sell you stuff. It's like very like I'm here because I want to be here. And we have it used to be called Baby Witch Circle, but we recently changed it to Witch School. So we have like a beginner space and they gave me so many questions that in the book, so there's a section on how to create spells. The second half of that chapter is questions and answers because they had so many questions about spells. They were like one of them was, do I have to do spells? Like, can I still be a witch and never do a spell? And of course. But like some people need to know that. Like they didn't feel like maybe like if they went to a witch gathering and they say, "Well, I don't cast a spell," they'd be like, "Oh, well, you can't be here," you know? And so it's like those kinds of questions. And I find neurodivergent people ask a lot of questions. I know I do. I'm like, but explain why, like tell me why we're doing math, because I never wanted to do math. So those kinds of things. And so they helped me. The other thing I found with them, the last chapter in the book is all about avoiding overwhelm. Because I work with, like I said, a lot of beginner witches, And I'm not talking about like younger people. They're women, they tend to have a lot of women in their 40s and up who are focusing on themselves now, who have maybe been brought up in a very religious background and have always been drawn to witchcraft, and this is for them. This is their path, this is for them. And they join and they get overwhelmed because it's like there's so much information.
Mhm.
It's like
That's true.
online, it's in books. I mean, I remember in the 90s when I became a witch, my like borders section was like 10 books and no internet. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
was like I didn't have internet at home. We were not wealthy, so we didn't have internet. I had this small book section, the libraries. Sometimes I could get like one book on an interlibrary loan. And so it wasn't overwhelming. It was like, I'm going to read this one book that I bought cover to cover, and then I'm going to trade with my friend, and then we're going to see what we learned. And we're going to talk about it. It was like so easy and like small. And now it's like this stuff's everywhere. Like my local grocery store sells tarot decks.
Wow.
Wow. That's crazy.
It is
That is
crazy.
crazy.
It really is. And I remember, yeah, like going to the library when I was like a young teenager looking for which, like, and you're right, like there was barely any. And now you kind of like every once in a while, I'll be like, oh, I wonder how you do this or that. And then you start looking on the internet and there's like 70 different ways. And you're like, for me, I do like, does that feel right to me when I'm reading it? That's how I decide what I'm going to follow. But, but there's so much to learn. It's like, how do you learn all of this? And especially if you don't learn the same way as everybody else, which I don't think any of us learn the same way as anybody else.
True.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that you put it to the basics like that and that you teach people how to actually make a spell because yeah, that's it's simple things like that that I find a lot of the books are missing some of this very simple, very practical stuff.
Yeah, there's an assumption that we know. And like if I have this is my first witchcraft book, I don't know anything except for maybe what I saw in movies. You know what I mean? I don't know, like I know practical magic and I don't know beyond that. And what you're saying too, like in my chapter on overwhelm, I talk about how, because I was an English teacher. So one of the things I did in English was teach research. And so I talk about how to decide if a source is credible. And I do, and one of the things I say is exactly what you said. Does it feel right to me? Do I like take in this information and go, yeah, this feels right? Or do I go, this feels weird or this feels uncomfortable or I can't see myself doing that? Because that's important too, is honing that intuition and being able to like trust yourself, especially now with AI and like all these things. We're going to see AI generated spells. We're going to see all these like crazy stuff in the next few years. And we have to be able to be like, does this feel good? Does this feel real?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, that discernment, right? Of seeing what is actually true and what is actually not. Because like there's so much and like you said, AI is like scary crazy now because there's things that you would think are real. And, I think it's important that people really source stuff out before they just start messing about. But I mean, also having said that, I think you can't really do it unless you somewhat kind of give yourself a little bit of grace to make some mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. And we have
Yeah.
to like normalize asking someone, like, where did that information come from?
Yeah.
Like that's okay to ask. Be like, okay, well, you do this way, why? And not in like a rude way, but just like why? Why do you like, I feel like every witch has a different way of casting a protective circle. Like
Hmm.
nobody has the same way unless they're in like the same order or the same group or something. But everybody's gives different ways. So it's like it's very simple of just like having these dialogues of like, well, why do you do it that way? Positive communication with each other, which is like what we do in our coven. But like I see it on TikTok where like witches try to tear each other down. They're like, you're wrong. Okay, great. Thank you. Tell me why though. Why you say that. Let's have a conversation instead of you just being like, I don't like you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think too, the more to me, I just find I hate that when people are tearing each other down because I'm like, why don't we come together so that we can learn from each other and see what works and what doesn't, and what maybe you do that's different from what I do that maybe I can, oh, that's a new way of looking at it, right? And I love
Right.
that. And Mom, you're like that a lot. You ask so many questions about why and why, and you have right from the time you were in Catholic school, like you were asking questions about, well, why is this? Well, the Bible says, well, that's not a good enough answer, she would be like.
That is so true. But I think it's good that you ask for questions. I think it drives some people crazy sometimes because I ask so many, but I want to know why, you
Yes.
know? That's all it is. I want to know why.
And when we can't get why, then I'm like, it's not for me. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you
For
can't get
how?
to me a why, then why am I
Yeah.
doing this?
Yeah. Yeah. And how do I do this?
Right.
You know? Yeah, you're right with the AI out there. It's scary because you don't know what to believe out there. And you want to do it right when you're going to do a spell. You want to be able to do the right thing with it, right? You know, it's just the way it is. Because I mean, I just used the freezing spell not that long ago, and and it worked. But I mean, yeah, I had good information for it. That's why.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't have like an elder person or a source or a friend. And that's why it's like, we got to try to like lean on books and lean on what we can. Because that's part of my thing on TikTok is I'm on Witch Talk and I might do a lot of Ask Me Anything. And I really
Nice.
do like try to come up with a really good answer. I happen to live, which is like, this is just meant to be. I live a mile away from one of the only metaphysical libraries that I know of.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm a
I
member, I'm a
wish.
paying member. And I go in there and I will like I borrowed books for my book that I'm writing. I go in there and I can chat with people and it's like such a cool resource. And I collect old occult books, especially ones that are out of print. So if someone asks me a question, I'm like, let me consult my library. So it's
I love that. Oh,
Yeah, me
now I
too.
just need to come visit you so we can go to the library together. Two
I
of my
agree.
favorite things. Yeah. I think it's so good. And Mom and I are both so grateful that there's people such as you out there showing and lighting the way for people because I think, like you said, there's so much information. It gets really overwhelming for people. Do you think there is something that people can do when they're feeling overwhelmed or anxious about, anything really in general, but
Yeah, overwhelm is something I deal with for sure. I used to think I was just a highly sensitive person. That's a term that's coined by a therapist. And when I was in therapy in my 20s, that's what my therapist decided because it was before like we really knew about ADHD being more of a spectrum. And so he's like, you're definitely a highly sensitive person because I always got sick easily. I always like everything about me sensitive, like my immune system, my allergy reaction, my emotions. Like it's like I'm like my friend would call me the canary in the coal mine all the time. Which isn't nice to be, but she was like, "You're like our little thermometer," and you read the room. And I had another friend when I worked at a certain school. She's like, "You weren't at that meeting. I needed my empath to tell me what everybody was feeling because," and so people like saw that as a good trait, but it's very overwhelming and it's very
Yes.
draining. And so some things that, over the years that I've definitely come to realization or like the realization about is that we all get overwhelmed and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. And so I think that's part of it is like the very first thing is like, don't be embarrassed because some people are like, I'm not good at adulting. There's like these jokes about that kind of stuff. But it's life is overwhelming, life is challenging. Our bodies take up so much information that we're not even aware of, like our sense of smell. We have auras, we have chakras. Like we are just out there with an antenna, just feeling stuff all the time. There's stuff coming in through online. There's stuff coming in through your guides. I mean, it's ridiculous. Even when you're sleeping, so there's like a lot of stuff going on. So something I always think is I think every day we should cleanse our energy and then protect our energy. And I think that cuts down on some overwhelm because you're not getting as much information. I've learned over the years how to open myself up psychically and how to close myself up because I don't want to just walk around reading everybody. I used to like have, it can be uncomfortable. I was on a customer service phone call one time and I'm like, did your grandma just pass away? Because she's here talking to me. Like it's like weird. I mean, he was very receptive of this conversation, but not everybody wants to know about what their grandma has to say. So it's like, I think that's really important. I talk about that in the book about how to cleanse your energy, how to cleanse your space, how to protect yourself. I noticed something kind of like infiltrating the New Age community. I noticed that nobody was protecting their energy. Like they don't
Right.
call circles. They're just like the angels will protect me. I'm like, well, no. No, they aren't going to.
So can you share with a way that people can cleanse their energies?
Yeah, so I'll give three simple ways depending on what you have at home, right? So, if you have any kind of dried herb, so something is like something I live by is that every plant is cleansing, unless it's toxic, okay? But every plant is cleansing and every stone or crystal is protective. Every single one. And some are more protective than others, some are more cleansing than others. But I say you take what you have and you use it. So, something I've been using, and I kid you not, so like we're getting close to like this will come out in June, but here we are. I've been using the same cinnamon stick to cleanse my space with like I light it on fire, I cleanse myself, cleanse my space since December.
Wow.
Because it's just like a tiny bit. And I'm like doing this. I have a little bowl of sand and I put it out. And so that's from the grocery store. Okay. So sacred smoke is one. If you don't like smoke or you can't do smoke, I've been using salt in the shower. So I actually have a piece of rock salt that I got. But you can just use a bowl of salt. You can use Morton salt. And at the end of my shower, I take the salt and I just like put it in the water and I ask to be cleansed of anything that's no longer serving me and I envision like this like an ocean kind of like engulfing me. And then a third way is through selenite. I think selenite is very inexpensive crystal. It's self-cleansing. It doesn't need to be cleansed. It does like being in the moon because it's connected to the moon, but it doesn't necessarily need it. And using that selenite as like a little wand over yourself, I have it above my front door. I have like a little piece. So like imagine when people come in, it's like a shower.
I love
Like
that.
we're gonna go before you come in. And so, just kind of having that cleansing, and that can be like as often as you need it. If you like people, especially people that work in like retail or customer service, that's rough. And the people
Mm.
are not always nice to you, and they're like yelling at you, and it's like you take on a lot of energy. And so cleansing yourself after you get off of work or when you get on a train or in the car or however you want to do it and like taking some deep breaths and being like, let it go. Like, let me let all this nonsense go. And that helps you become present too. Like, cleansing yourself and then taking a couple deep breaths and like, okay, I'm shifting from stressed out work me to like at home and I'm downshifting. And then for protection, it's just as simple as calling on something outside of yourself. So I don't think I think even if you are not someone that works with a deity or anything, you can call on the elements. But I just don't think it's wise to call on your own energy to protect yourself because then you're draining your own energy. So you can
Mm.
call on a crystal. You can hold like I'm wearing amber. Amber's technically not a crystal, but we use it as a crystal. Amber's very protective. So like if you put on your amber bracelet, you just envision being like in an amber bubble. And now the amber is like with your energy and you ask it to protect you. It doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't even have to be long. It could be like something really quick.
I love that. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that with everybody. And that's so funny because I was actually going to ask you about selenite. So you we're in sync or something here. Because I was going to ask you, selenite, yes or no? What do you think? But yeah, and I love selenite because I just find it is so cleansing and clearing right away. It's just like,
Yes.
okay, get that energy off of me, right?
Like
Yeah,
immediate. I
Yeah.
think it's an immediate feeling. Yes, like
yeah,
quicker than I think anything else personally, but I just really like crystals and I work with them very well. But selenite, and you can get it like it's like I said, very inexpensive. These little pieces.
yeah.
I actually gave them out for Christmas gifts. It's like everyone gets a little piece of selenite this year.
That's awesome. I bought this one. It was supposed to be protective. It was black tourmaline and selenite wrapped in copper. And then it was supposed to go over your door so that same thing, right? People coming in. And I cannot get it to stay on my door. So now I put it by a plant because I'm like, it doesn't want to be at the door. So
Yeah, doesn't want that job. It's like, no,
no, no,
no.
no, thank you. I'll pass.
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks. I'll do
Yeah.
something else.
And I love that you said that about the cinnamon too, because I think we overcomplicate it sometimes. And, like I know in the past we've done sage and things like that, which is lovely, but sometimes it's such an aggressive smell.
Yes.
And you
Well,
don't want to do that. People don't always appreciate that, but I feel like cinnamon would be much gentler and
yeah, nice.
Yeah, and inexpensive because you don't have to have a
Mm.
witchy store nearby. You just have to have a grocery store,
yeah,
you know?
that's
That's
exactly it.
right.
Well, and then see, that's why people need to get your book so that they can read about this stuff so they know, right? And I love too, like I've been following you a little bit in the past, and I don't know, Mama, if you've had a chance to or not, but like
No,
you just make some great videos that are just so genuine. So really appreciate the information that you're getting out to people.
Thank you. Yeah, I really make an effort to not mask up on the internet. I'm like, this is me. This is who I am, and I'm gonna misspeak. I'm gonna make a mistake, but it's what you get. And I spent a lot of time on my socials talking about other people's books because I was a literature major. I love to read. And so I do really love to like get a new book and like see what other people are doing. I like meeting other authors. Like that to me is really excited. So what you're getting is like real genuine because I'm like literally I'm actually excited to get the book. Every single book that comes through this house, I'm like, ah, look at this. It's like being a kid and going to the library and getting your big bag of books like all the time, and I love it.
it
That's
is. I just got back into reading again, and so every time I get a hold of Kim, I say, "What's another good book?"
Yeah, I love to read.
Me
I
too.
love to read and I love to read different things. Like I like a trashy novel just as much as I like something that's, got a lot of information in it for me to learn from, right? And balance is balance.
Yeah, I think, well, one of the things I did as an English teacher was trying to get people to find a book, kids to find a book that they liked. And it was like, it didn't have to be like the good book. Just read something. And so I still remember when all the Twilight books came out and I fully embraced it. I was like, heck yeah, we're all going to read Twilight. I was pregnant with my daughter and we're all going to read it and we're all going to go to the movies. We had a Twilight club at the middle school and it was like, we're reading. It doesn't, I don't care that it's like vampire stuff. I mean, I had read Anne Rice, so I loved it. I personally read romantasy. That's my favorite genre. So like, all that stuff. I like fantasy, I like murder mystery, and then I read nonfiction. So it's like I have my vegetables, but I think I probably spend more time with dessert.
That's a good way of looking at it. Definitely a good way. What do you hope that people will get from your book that you've just put or are just putting out?
I hope that they get confidence. I hope that they like go through it, they build the foundation, and they go, I can do this. Like I learned recently, and it actually really made me sad that some people view witchcraft and paganism as a hobby.
Oh,
And for me, it's my life. It's my way of life. It's my religion. It's my lifestyle. And so I'm hoping that someone who's like, this is a hobby for me, could read the book and be like, no, this is a way of life. Like, I feel good about this. I talk about in there working with the moon phases and working with plants. It's like, there's so many ways that we can be a witch and like all the things we do, that I hope people can see that. And it's been so rewarding for me in my life. Like, having a witchy life is a magical life. Like it's just, I love it. I grew up Catholic too, and I loved the feeling of church. Like I loved the smell of the incense and I loved the feeling after. And I feel like that every day. Like I feel that magic without having to go anywhere. And I want
Right.
that for everybody.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, I love that. But similar, I loved when I was young, I remember saying to mom because she raised us to believe in something, but we pretty much had our own choice at that point. So I love church, and I'm like, well, which church can I go to? She goes, whichever one you'd like to go to. I'm like, yes, but I'm not that faith. She goes, doesn't matter, just go. And I did, and I loved it, right? So I think that's great, and I hope people do learn that, this is can be a lifestyle that is so gentle in a lot of ways, and we can just adapt it into our life, which I love. So, do you have a picture of your book?
I do,
Yeah.
yes. So I really I love the
Great.
cover
Yeah.
because my daughter and I, like I said, we read romantasy, and she's like, "Mom, it looks like a fantasy cover." And I was like, "Well, maybe it'll trick some people into learning, you know."
It is very nice. Very nice.
I
I love it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do too, and I love the crows on the front. That's like my
Yeah,
favorite bird. So,
Yeah, I'm
I
wearing
know.
my crow
You're not
earrings
the
today.
hawk. Yeah.
that's amazing. Well, if there was one thing that you could say to people or give to people to put into their spiritual toolkit, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Something to put in your spiritual toolkit. I would say to like remember that witchcraft is fun, that it's playful, it's fun. We are not in a stuffy church. We are not in a set of commandments. Like we don't have those things. And so we have this sense of play. And I think that playing and enjoying the spell work, the ritual, the sabbats, that's the best part. Like I we do like like you could do a coloring spell. You can do a playlist for a spell. Like there's it's like endless of how much you can play around with everything. It doesn't have to be serious, but it can be if that's your thing. Like if you're like, no, I want it to be really serious and this is that's fine too. But the older I get, the more I want to play and the more I want to like just have fun in my life.
Yes.
Well, I think too, when you're joyful, there's so much that we can bring into our life by having and living in joy, right? So I love that you said that. That's a
Yeah.
perfect thing to say. Well, it has been so much fun talking to you. You have so much information. Really looking forward to reading your book. And uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
can you tell everybody where to find you?
Yeah, my website is Jenny C. Bell because those are very common names, both Jenny and Bell.
Yes, they
And
are.
and I'm basically Jenny C. Bell everywhere. I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Substack, I'm on TikTok. Substack is where I've been writing more and I've been really enjoying it. There's a lot more witches joining Substack and we need the positive energy on there. So that's been really good. I'm just recently joined Granddaughter Crow's show Belief Being and Beyond as a co-host, and we get to interview a lot of fun people. And then I have my own podcast called Cozy Coven Chats. That comes out every Sunday, and basically the idea is it's kind of like your sermon. So it's like, if you instead of going to church and whatever, you're going to hear about astrology, you're going to hear about the wheel of the year, and you're going to hear how I'm living like a slow lifestyle and how I'm living my witch life so that you can be inspired to do that too.
Right.
Wonderful,
Good.
wonderful, wonderful. I love that. I'm gonna have to tune into those.
Yeah. What?
I already added one to my Spotify. I was like, yes, check, follow. So, um, if you had one final thought to leave with us and our followers, what would it be?
I am just grateful that people are watching and listening and connecting and building community. Like the people that tune in and they're learning and they're growing. I want people to remember that when we do these things, when we do spiritual work and when we heal ourselves, it's not selfish, because as you heal, you do not heal alone. You heal your ancestry, you heal your future lineage, and you heal those around you. You raise the vibration of everybody around you. And so never ever look at this work as frivolous or selfish or like I can take it or leave it. Like if it means something to you and it's giving you something good in your life, please continue.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, good message.
Yes, that is a very good message. Well, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a lot of fun and a lot of information, and we'd love to have you back to share more information in the future because I think there's just so many different avenues that we could go down with this. So thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, you betcha. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And everybody else, we will see you on the next one.
You will.